Welcome to Uncommon Living, where we host dialogues of human resilience. I'm Thomas Seager. I'm an engineering professor at Arizona State University and the CEO of the Morozko Forge Ice Bath Company. My guest today is Tommy Plato. Tommy is the chef and owner of the Ends restaurant in Scottsdale, Arizona, where he cooks without seed oils. Tommy and I talk about losing weight, his sobriety, the values that embed the Ends restaurant, and what we've learned from some of our more difficult relationships. Tommy Plato, Thanks for coming down, joining me on the Uncommon Living podcast.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
We met at your restaurant at the Ends, which I adore.
Thanks.
Because when I go to the Ends, I don't feel food shame. And I want to tell you about why. But you are feeding customers like me at the Ends the way that I want to be fed, the way that I don't feel guilty about what I'm eating. But when you came out and you said hi and you introduced yourself to our table, and you told us a little bit about your journey and why the restaurant is the way it is, I knew I wanted to have you on the podcast so we could talk about food, we could talk about emotions, and we could talk about the personal growth that you and I have both sort of been parallel without knowing one another, been going through, and now we meet.
That's the best part about the restaurant is it's attracting the people that are on a similar path. And so I get to learn about your story, and it helps me grow as a person too. And there's tons of those people coming in now, so it's really cool to see. Kind of surreal, actually. You know?
Tell us what ENDS is an acronym. Tell us what that stands for and the vision that you're trying to realize with this.
So the ENDS stands for the energy never dies. But what that means to me is every 8 weeks I give the staff, and I do this for myself too, but everything I do for myself to be a healthy person, I wanted to give to the staff. So every 8 weeks I give them 4 days off in a row, and they either have to spend it with friends, take a weekend to themselves, or travel to the ends of earth. And I think if you do one of those three things, that you go out and get good energy and you bring it back in and you get to share that good energy with people. And so it's been something that I needed when I got sober to kind of keep myself alive, really, to keep myself out of depression, to keep myself from spiraling and feeling burnt out. And that's what I realized I needed to create a concept around it to stay interested in the restaurant business, because the restaurant business can grind you, And so part of over that journey, you start traveling and you see different things that are being done in different parts of the world. And you're like, oh, that's so cool. I want to share that experience with people back home, or I want somebody to be there with me to experience that too, right? And so finding different things when I traveled and getting inspired is one of the best parts about traveling is the food that you experience in different cultures. So I really identified with that idea of traveling for food, and that's where I was watching more Anthony Bourdain style stuff, and I just was like, this guy kind of embodies a part of the people in the hospitality industry. We really identify with the struggles of mental health, traveling for food and having a meal with someone different than you and sitting across, finding little niches when you're traveling that's like not a tourist spot, it's more local. That's like the fun, exciting, unexpected part about traveling sometimes that you remember forever. And so I was like, I need to create a concept based around what I love to do and give that to the staff. And there's some other elements, as you know, of the restaurant that make it where you don't have the food shame that we can talk about. But I really think at the end of the day, food is a very spiritual thing, and that's why in every religious text they talk about praying over food or bringing awareness to your food. And so, like you were talking earlier, how you make food for someone that you care about at home, and there's something that makes it taste better when it's made from a point of intention.
When it has the love in it.
Right.
So I thought I was going there because you cook without seed oils, but really I'm coming back because of the energy that you're managing in the place.
Something about food to me, if it's made with someone who cares about it, that it will, there's energy in the food that you get to alchemizing your own body. And I've been to places where, like, over, and even it happens at my place too, where maybe the energy is not perfect that day and somebody made something and it doesn't taste right.
Yeah.
And it might have been the same recipe, but it just doesn't have it. And so I think there's something beyond my understanding of that gets infused into the food, So
I want to tell you a little bit about what it does for me, and then ask you about that journey through sobriety to realizing this vision for the restaurant. People on the podcast, they see me in the ice bath, and they'll hear me say, I know I'm fat. I'm a sedentary college professor, for goodness sakes. I live a life of the imagination. And so when I had my DEXA scan done, I think I was maybe 25 or 26% body composition fat, which is obese clinically. Now, people are very nice to me. They say, well, you don't look fat, but I know. I also have a self-image, and the self-image was formed when I was young because I used to be a lot fatter. And even though I've lost about 40 pounds from my max, and I'm proud of that, it's hard to keep in mind, it's hard to shed the idea of being the fat child, the fat grown-up that is part of that self-image. Because for me, in my house, food was a battleground. The dining room table was a constant power struggle between my mother and my older sister. In retrospect, my older sister probably had some sensory processing disorders that would be typical of someone on the Asperger's autism spectrum, but we didn't talk like that back in the 70s. We didn't know those kinds of things. And so my mother was constantly trying to force her to eat whatever, inexpensive meal it was my mother was making. I'm the second in the family, and I want to please my mom. I will eat everything on my plate, and I will eat, I will ask for seconds, whatever I can do to show how much, I want my mother to love me. And what stinks about that, Tommy, is that my mother and my father, they met at Harvard. They met at Harvard in the early 60s. Harvard is like the capital of nutrition propaganda. It is at Harvard where they promulgated this cholesterol hypothesis through all the institutions of science, where they tried to convince people like my mother that a calorie was just a calorie was just a calorie, and sugar is better for you than salt, and all of these other nutritional nonsense things. So my mother had margarine on the table instead of butter. She cooked with seed oils. My father, who is allergic to cottonseed oil and allergic to a whole bunch of other things that probably protected him from some of these, maybe ate healthier. He couldn't eat soybean oil, for example. But because it was cheap and my mother believed these Harvard lies that said it was better for us, I was eating all of this crap. Now here comes a new restaurant in Scottsdale. There's no seed oils. I can go eat my tallow fries. You can see what I mean by I don't have the food shame. I eat your wonderful food, and instead of thinking that I'm doing it to please my mother, I'm doing it to please myself, and I don't have to worry that I'm poisoning myself along the way.
It tastes better seed oil free.
I agree.
I don't even understand using chemicals anymore. As soon as you kind of get that aha moment and you're like, it tastes better. This is how they did it 100 years ago. So there was no
My grandmother didn't cook with margarine.
Right. And so you've just been brainwashed thinking that, it's healthier for you or whatever it is. But when you really dig into not only the health benefits, but the taste, the flavor. So at the end of the day, I am going to cook something that tastes better. It's like I'm not cooking for health first. I'm cooking for flavor. I'm giving people an experience at the restaurant. They're going out to enjoy. Like if you want to cook healthy at home, you can do that. But we still want to have a really good quality flavor and experience for people. It just so happens that seed oil free, and
not just so happens, you made it seed oil free. And I agree that it tastes better, but you did that partly because I'm getting to know you, Tommy, and I think you're not the kind of guy who wants to poison his customers.
Right. There's something about giving people an amazing experience that feeds my soul. right? There's a reason I'm in that business, you know? So it was like, be like a car salesman selling a lemon. If you know that it's a lemon, some part of your soul is dead inside to do that to people, right? So I think now, you know, when you see other people, but the trend's coming now where people are starting to have more awareness around this, which is amazing. But I think we're the only verified seed oil free restaurant in Scottsdale on the app, on the Seed Oil Scout app. I think there's a couple other restaurants that are doing it.
That might be why when people like Paul Saladino come to Phoenix, or people like Jordan Peterson come to Phoenix, or people like Callie Means come to Phoenix, where do they go? They go to the ends.
I've had them in, and they're just normal people looking to go out and experience life, but they don't want to eat
taco
chemicals, you know. So that's been pretty surreal to have a bunch of people in that are in alignment with eating that way, and you know, and coming back, you know, and just it's been pretty surreal. I met Paul years ago at an animal-based event in Costa Rica, and so I had been eating animal-based for years. I'm down 80 pounds from my high.
Wow.
I put on about 30 of it the last month of last year when I've opened the restaurant. But, you know, originally I was the same, feeling shameful, you know, not eating. If I didn't eat everything off my plate, there was some sort of, in my childhood, because I grew up my stepmom was Asian, and she grew up poor, and she grew up where you eat everything on your plate because we don't have money.
We
right?
were guilted into it.
So she guilted me into eating everything, and I'm still trying not to project that onto my own children.
Yeah.
These programs get into you when you're a kid, and you have no idea. You're just subconsciously overeating. You're subconsciously addicted to something like a chemical-based food because they've really hacked your brain into craving unhealthy food. And you're not even hungry.
Correct.
You're just eating because the brain's telling you to eat, but your body really doesn't want it.
For me, emotional eating was a big deal. Food equals love. Food equals money. Food equals all these other things that, for whatever reason, I couldn't pass up. When I got up to a little over 250, and I knew I had to do something about it, none of the diets, so to speak, even the Atkins diet or a keto diet, were working for me. I put myself on what I call the great food diet. And that rule is, if it isn't great, I don't eat it. So I would only look for those things that were homemade, that were exquisite, that were grass-fed, that were like really worth what I was thinking about the calories. So if that was a donut while I'm in Portland, Oregon, and I'm at a shop that has a worldwide reputation, or something, I'm going to eat it because it's great food. This is where your restaurant comes in. You made me some gelato. You were in the kitchen and you were like, look, I'm whipping up gelato right now. I'm going to bring you some as soon as I make it, right? And it was the salted caramel gelato, and you had just finished it, and you brought it out for us to taste. Now, everybody at our table is low-carb keto, and you're coming in here with the gelato. And I'm like, that's great gelato.
Like the drug dealer with the...
But it's not, because it's great food.
Well, that's really where I got my start, was in the gelato business. So I'm a gelato chef by trade. I lived in Italy, and I can tell you a little bit about the history of how I got to where I'm getting, and that's from where I started, which was gelato. But basically, over 20 years ago now, my dad owned a property, and there was a Cold Stone Creamery in that property. And that guy that owned that Cold Stone had screwed him out of $800 when my dad was bankrupt years earlier. Years later, my dad became his landlord, and he goes, we're going to do our own ice cream place. We're kicking this guy out. And I was in Italy studying abroad at the time. I said, we got to do gelato. And so that's how the first idea came. And so I met a kid. His dad was one of the best gelato scientists in the world. And when you get into gelato science, you get into dairy science, and you get into corn sugar science. And so my 20s was all based around learning the science behind dairy and ice cream. And when you get into corn sugar science in your 20s, somehow I found myself getting into bourbon because it's all corn sugar and bourbon. And then I got way too into bourbon, but my journey from gelato to bourbon was creating another concept because I fell in love with going from gelato to a bourbon bar, right? And that was like opening my second restaurant, which is called Second Story, above my gelato business. And when you're in your 20s, gelato is cool. But in your 30s, you're like, I don't want to have an ice cream place anymore. I need to do something that's more adult, right? And so that was getting into whiskey. And then you get way too into whiskey over the years, and that's when I realized I had to quit.
You were into whiskey, and the whiskey was into you.
Oh, yeah, big time. And people always like, oh, I had fun during my drinking days and all that. Like, I look back and I'm like, I wish I never got into that addiction, you know? And like I was telling you earlier, I don't even think it is an alcohol addiction for me. It was a sugar addiction because I was into gelato and being around sugar all the time. And then the whiskey's the sweeter type of alcohol. And I was always drinking the sweet drinks. So I was drinking Manhattans and Old Fashions and falling in love with the art of whiskey too. There's a story behind every whiskey.
Sure.
There's a cool artistic expression. And so that was more the draw of getting into it. But then it kind of takes you over and you have no idea. You meet more friends and they're coming in and they say, hey, you want to have a drink with me? And it's a Tuesday, and since I'm wanting to give people the best experience, yeah, I'll have a drink with you. We don't realize over time it's just adding
a lot of
up.
drinks.
Yeah, and you're drinking 4 or 5 nights a week, and then you're out at places that you shouldn't be, strip clubs, casinos, not being in integrity as a man, right? And so there was some sort of breakdown that I had to have to get sober, and that for me that was emotionally. I didn't get arrested. I didn't get, people never told me I was an alcoholic. I didn't do anything stupid, running down the street naked or anything like that. But inside myself, I was at a low. And so, that was the catalyst of being at an emotional low, looking in the mirror, unhappy with myself, knowing I can offer more to the world. And so I had to do something about it. And that was like the first moment where I went to AA and got sober through the 12 steps. And that kind of awakened me to growth. And so over the last 7.5 years, every year there's some sort of layer involved in building to what the ends is. And so I realized I need to integrate the parts of me that help me stay sober into the restaurant business, because there's so many people that work in the restaurant industry that are struggling with addictions, that are unhealthy themselves, that are amazing people deep down. And we give so much of ourselves to host people, but there's some sort of lack of fulfillment still deep down. And we go and drink and we go and use drugs and we stay up late and we don't take care of ourselves. And eventually you burn out. And so I saw that happening with a lot of people that worked with me or worked for in the business. And you hear stories all the time. This guy was amazing, and then alcohol got to him, cocaine got to him, the lifestyle got to him. And so I realized to be sustainable, I had to build the concept around a different lifestyle. So I try to attract people that are in similar personal growth journeys and want to have a different environment to work in where they feel good, And I don't know if I told you this story, but humans are like little computers when you think about it. And I had two guests at my first restaurant where they had latitude and longitude bracelets of that restaurant because it was their first date and it had a lot of meaning to them. And they had told me 4 years ago, we met here and we got latitude and longitude bracelets. And that's when it dawned on me that when you give people a strong feeling, whether it's negative or positive, but a strong feeling, that hacks the subconscious.
Yes.
And makes them remember that location in a GPS format.
You're
right?
correct.
So I always give the example to my staff, where did you lose your virginity? You can drive back to that place right now because it was such a strong emotion.
Yep.
Or a car accident, you will always remember that intersection. So with my staff, I'm like, we are here to create intersections with people. And so how the food tastes is one of them. And we get to cheat because we get to use food and beverage to alchemize and kind of hack the human body to create a feeling, right? And so then we have the personalities, we have the music, the lighting's another thing at the ends where there's only halogen ambient
There are no
lighting.
compact fluorescent bulbs at the ends. There are no LED
There's
bulbs.
one LED on the table for taking a picture for Instagram, a little lamp that you can control the dimness. But the rest of the lighting in there is all halogen, which is a big no-no these days or whatever. And I have to go through hoops to get enough lighting to support what we need because it goes out a lot more
That's
often.
part of the energy.
But it feels different.
Yeah.
There's something soulless about LED lighting, in my opinion, and it drains your energy. And so, and it's hard to explain to sometimes when people have a feeling, but when you come in, you feel it. It feels different, right? And so I realized, like, when those people were telling me about their bracelets, we are here to create a strong feeling for people, and hopefully it's positive, and they will remember it for the rest of their lives. And so then we get to use food and drinks, but the drinks, in my opinion, open up a portal to their soul. A little alcohol, there's a reason they call it spirits. It'll open up a portal to their soul. But if you don't put in something made with love, something made with good energy into their bodies to alchemize, then whatever's in their soul is going to come out. And when I had a bar, it was only alcohol served there, no food. And so all of a sudden you have these people that are turned into demons, quite frankly. They're, passing out, throwing up, doing drugs, whatever, all the negative qualities of drinking. And then there's some people that drink and they laugh and they're joyful because it amplifies who you are as a person in some aspect, right? And so I realized I want a restaurant in the place. The bar that was there before was mine. And so I'm like, I need to do what's more me and aligns with my values. And that's what I created at the ends,
You gave me a feeling that I will remember for the rest of my life. This was during the COVID lockdowns. And that was a difficult time for a lot of people in a lot of ways. But for me, it was an inflection point. I contributed to an article that went up on Medium called "The Curve is Already Flat." Medium censored it. They took it down. We reposted it on Morosco Forge because it had something like 2 million views in the first 24 hours. It was the second anti-lockdown article that was ever censored. I remember this was April 2020, and I put my name on saying the COVID lockdowns were crap, that they were all filled with propaganda, that they were harming the public, et cetera, et cetera. Now here I am, this tenured faculty member at Arizona State University, and I became a target. Partly that's because I have a big mouth. Wouldn't shut up on Twitter. Del Bigtree asked me to come on his show because they'd seen the article and would I talk about the article. And at that time, there weren't a lot of tenured faculty in the universities who were willing to say anything, and I was.
Right.
Well, I was so fed up with the lockdowns and the masks, and I lost a lot of friends. But I found your restaurant, your property, and the woman who wrote that article and we went on a date, and there were no masks anywhere. And nobody gave us any hard time about social distancing. We stepped into a bubble in which those COVID lockdowns for one night didn't exist at a critical moment, both in our relationship and in the trajectory of the country. I'm never going to forget that feeling, that energy that you gave me then when I could sort of escape into an alternate reality. Usually we think of an alternate reality as being a fantasy, but you were the only thing that was real. And everything outside your building was in some kind of a twisted psyop state of mind. I didn't know what happened to you, but I think the sheriff finally caught up with what you were doing.
They tried to get me in trouble, but I just used their own rules against them. And when they tried to come in and said, hey, we heard you're violating whatever mandates, which aren't laws. And I said, well, if I let you in, it's over your own capacity ruling. So I just didn't let them in. And they lost their minds, but I just refused to let them in. And then about a week later, they just disappeared, Nice. But it was one of those things like COVID was one of the most emotional and scary parts of my life because it was all weird for us anybody, right? But in the restaurant business, you are closed
Yeah.
or whatever, you don't know. And I didn't know if I was going to lose my whole life
Right.
that I had built with my two places, right? But now in hindsight, and I've known this for a while, it was the best thing that ever happened for me because I got to grieve the loss of my restaurants because I didn't know if I was going to
Yeah.
reopen. That first 2 months, you're like, everybody has to close, right? And I didn't do, my places didn't do to-go food. There was no way for me to generate, right? So the first sign of them saying, hey, you can open back up, I'm like, I'm too small to social distance. I'm too small. And I don't believe in any of this nonsense
Yeah.
anyways. I'm going back to normal because people just wanted to go out and feel normal.
That's what I wanted.
That's right. And so I'm like, there's no way I'm going against what humans want, the majority of people, right? At least in this city, right? And so, but I got to see who aligns with my beliefs. I got to separate. You lose a lot of friends, but truly, I'm happy, that and I don't feel like I had any backlash. I really haven't spoken publicly about what I did because I just did what I do every day and live my life, and I wasn't out there trying to tell people how to live theirs. I feel like everybody gets their own choice, right? You want to stay in, stay in. You want to come out. Here's, and so it was a good thing that happened because I got to grieve this idea of never identifying myself as a restaurateur again. I literally processed it emotionally. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do after this, but me having restaurants, I don't know if they're going to reopen. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to lose my life. So I let go of this idea that I'm a restaurateur during that time. Well, that allowed me to create the space inside myself to let go of my first restaurant, which was making money when I closed it, and to let go of that bar that I had, which was making money when I closed it, and to create something new. And I wanted to go down to one location so I can focus on giving people the best experience, do what aligns with me now as a person, which is seed oil free, which is featuring artists on the wall that align with my values. There's a big Anthony Bourdain portrait, which is by Milana Blackman, who is the same type of thinker that we are. And I want to feature Alan Watts in the bathroom and bring it more about consciousness and awakening to your higher purpose, and that excited me. And so I let go of the other restaurants and bars that I had to create something new. And I would have never been able to get over that emotionally if COVID didn't happen. And so it was easy for me to say, yeah, I'm going to do something new and take that risk, and it's been the best decision because I get to meet people every day that are on a similar journey and appreciate what's happening and create something, a new experience for people that aligns with themselves and they feel connected to it. Because at the end of the day, when you come in and you have an experience, it's about the connection that you're having with the people that you came with. So I want to create an environment so you can have the best connection with those people. But if we can add a little bit more value by creating connection with you, then that's going to even amplify your experience and how you feel inside that place. And so I just love doing that for people, and it feeds my soul. And so there is some selfishness in it. It's like, hey, this is what I like, and I hope you like it too. But also I get to learn from you guys and hear about where you traveled and what you ate in some faraway place. And then when I have a little Apple Maps guide, so when a guest tells me about a cool restaurant in a certain place, I pin it. So I know when I'm there, or if somebody asks me, hey, I'm traveling to Portugal, where should I go? I have a guide that I can share with them. And it like brings another layer into the business. Like, you're not getting that at normal restaurants where we're kind of like becoming family, becoming a friend, like I want to know who's you when you come into my restaurant. And it's impossible to meet everybody, but it's just the right size where I feel like I can spend enough time with people to connect with them.
One of the things I love about it.
Right. So I don't have the vision of having 2 or 3 or 4. That's not in it for me. Like, where I want to go with the brand is is creating products that maybe are outside the walls, you know? And so that's the fun part of like being creative is and only having one location, I can do something new every day. I can make a new flavor of gelato every day and go, what do you think of this? And get like instant feedback, you know? So, but that gelato is where I started. And then I bought a machine for the new restaurant to bring it back. And so I'm the one making it right now.
Magnificent.
And I'm better at it than I was 20 years ago because I know more about food and what's good for you. And so every day I'm like even doing more flavors and different things to, you know, try to make it something where people can actually buy it to take home, because right now it's only at the restaurant, you know? So, and there's some parts of me that I have to let go. Like there's a flavor that everybody loves, and I don't know if it's super healthy for you or not these days, but pistachio is like the number one, and it's seed oils in a way. I haven't looked.
Because it's a nut? Because the pistachio
I think
is a nut?
so, yeah. It turns into, but I don't know like the
So here's my rule, but is it great?
It's great, yeah.
'Cause, I'll eat what's great.
It feels like you're in Italy when you're eating it because it's 100% pure pistachio. So that's the next one on the list that I'm going to make. But it's like,
I'll be there
it's
for
not
it.
100% seed oil free because it's a nut, right? You know, but so.
The idea that you go through grief is powerful. I came to the 12-step program through Al-Anon. Part of how I lost a lot of weight was cutting alcohol completely out of my life. And that was to support my ex-wife's recovery. She was going through the 12-step program. And so I got to see what she was doing. And of course, people recommended to me that I should go to Al-Anon. One of the guys who recommended that, he gave me some advice. He said, Tom, for you to change, you are going to have to be a murderer. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, you're going to have to commit homicide. I go, I'm not up for that. He goes, you're going to have to kill the old version of yourself to become the new version. And you won't be able to look around and blame anybody else for it. It's going to be you that kills that old identity. And when that happens, you're going to experience two things. One is the guilt that you feel of becoming the murderer, of killing the old version of yourself. And the second is the grief of that old version passing. He goes, these are very frightening things, and these are obstacles for why people never go through the change. When he made that conscious, I was like, holy crap, that feels right. Because to avoid those feelings of guilt, of shame, of feeling like I've been bad or I've done something bad, and to avoid that feeling of grief, I will back away from whatever the difficult thing is that I really need to do. And then when I'm able to, because I'm a professor, I'm able to intellectualize it and say, okay, that's a thing that's happening. Those are feelings that I'm having. Those feelings are holding me back from getting what I say that I want. How will I find the courage? I'll intellectualize those feelings. Say, I'm going to go through those. I'm going to do this thing anyway. And when those things happen, it's going to be okay. I will get through to the other side of it. My marriage didn't survive it. My wife entered the 12-step program because I gave her an ultimatum. I said, you can either be sober and married or drunk and divorced. And at the time, I thought that was sort of the right way for me to approach marriage. She came up with the third option. She says, I'm going to be sober and divorced. And I didn't see that coming.
She's still sober?
Yeah,
That's
she's
amazing.
doing great.
That's
and now
awesome.
my kids have a sober mother. She completed a degree in addiction counseling. She's learned so much about herself. What it really came down to was for one person to undergo an enormous change of becoming sober, it's going to change the marriage. For two people to go through these enormous changes, she's becoming sober, I'm losing a lot of weight, and I'm like, I want to go into entrepreneurship. I want to start businesses. I want to become this different person. Now these people have to renegotiate. What do we want our marriage to look like? You're not the same person that I married. I'm not the same person you married. And I think what it came down to there were lots of feelings of resentment and anger and some feelings of betrayal. All of those things can happen. But what it really was we had different visions of what, now that our kids were raised, we had different visions of what our lives were going to be, what we wanted our marriage to be. And a lot of the animosity melted away. And we recognized, I think, in time, that we had to pursue those visions of the way we wanted our lives to be, and we could still have the kids in common. But I'm telling you this story because I remember that moment when I was going to have to grieve the person who I was.
Mm-hmm.
I had to think of, why did I get fat? What problem was obesity trying to solve for me? And I only got there because of the experiences I had in Al-Anon. I thought her alcoholism was the problem. No, it wasn't. Her alcoholism was her search for a solution to some other deeper problem that she was avoiding. By analogy, I thought that my weight was the problem. No, it wasn't. My relationship with food, my obesity, the multiple layers of, visceral and subcutaneous fat that I coated all my vulnerable internal organs with, that wasn't the problem. That was my search for a solution for problems that resided far deeper inside of me. And for me to really solve those problems, I was going to have to give up the things that I was protecting, that all those, layers of fat were trying to keep safe inside, and become vulnerable in the world. Watch that identity die. Grieve it and create a new identity.
Gosh, the world is weird because, I'm sitting here with you now, and this is really the first public forum that I've expressed anything of this. And I deal with those feelings every day. And there was a part of me today that I know where it's like I've put on 30 pounds in the last 10 months. And there was a part of me that doesn't want to be on camera today, doesn't want to talk about things because I'm not perfect where I need to be to put myself out publicly.
Yep.
Or even the fact that I deserve it, right? These people coming into my restaurant who have their own successes, and it's like there's a part of you that's like trying to hide into your old self.
Yep.
And so I felt those feelings this morning, like, I'm good. Like, I just let me get back in shape how I was, and then I'll go on and be public about certain things, And I've rejected a lot of different podcasts because of that thinking, and that grieving, like my old restaurant, just like you grieve your relationship. It was an identity and a relationship that I had with the restaurant. I've done it with relationships. I've done it all, it's so hard to let go sometimes, but that maturity that you showed with your ex-wife, both of you guys being mature enough to not have old feelings driving the current reality of you guys, it's such a powerful thing when two people can do that. And then I've had it where I might have been the immature person. I might have been the mature one, and I was with someone that couldn't.
You're saying might, Tommy, and I hear.
I was. No, I definitely, there's times, certain things, like I'm a block delete kind of guy.
Right.
Because I want to heal,
Yeah.
And I don't want to keep enabling somebody or whatever. Addiction and shame and guilt and grief, it all is part of the human experience, and we all go through it in our own ways. My brother died of heroin and
I didn't know.
fentanyl like 4.5 years ago. And so there was a part of him that he never could get out of that and was hiding behind his feelings and not letting the old self go. And it wasn't his fault because something happened during childhood where he, kept growing in his addiction. But I see it all the time, challenging myself right now with food. It's like something we have to struggle with every day because we can't abstain from it like alcohol.
Right.
But food you have to engage with all the time. And I love food. My life is dominated by food with the restaurant. And then one of the common things that I have with my girlfriend and partner is we both love food. And so we get to talk about it. We're looking at things, coming up with ideas.
Don't want to put that at risk.
Well, I've dated women that don't love food.
Right.
I had a person that I say drank like a fish and ate like a bird.
Yeah.
And but I'm much more in alignment with someone who loves food. So I had to realize that about myself. But when you're talking about with your wife or anything with your business, with entrepreneurship, one of my core values of my company is imagination, which is holding a vision of something greater than what it is now. And something about having a vision and having an imagination, all the personal growth stuff I'm sure you've done, is you have to have that vision, which I think Jordan Peterson calls it aim, to go to that place. And if you don't have that vision, then you're never going to reach that place. So really getting a clear vision of where you want to go in the future to manifest.
Tommy, what's the difference between this vision, this imagination, this place that isn't real, but it exists in your imagination, and just lying to yourself? How do you know when your imagination is just lying to you?
Well, I think it's understanding your ego and understanding the deeper part of your truth and your soul. So I think deep down, unless you're probably brain damaged or something, but deep down, you know right and wrong.
Yeah, you do.
And so if I'm doing something that's out of alignment with my core values, my body's going to tell me. I wasn't able to tune in with that when I was drinking and drugging, and I'm not able to tune into it when I'm eating sugar, when my blood is going like this, you know.
Yeah.
So, but if I'm truly in alignment with myself, the truth is always available to me. And so you have to be able to feel it. You have to be able to feel it, because I think the ego wants things and is never satisfied, which kind of keeps us alive in a way. But it's like, do you want more stuff? Because sometimes more stuff means more problems, right? Do you want bigger cars, all the things? So I think that's the ego driving that. And we need our ego to stay alive. But then there's that part of you, like, how I get that stuff, is it aligned? Is there alignment on the way to it? You know, and doing stuff with integrity of your truest part of yourself. And so you have to feel it inside. And it's hard sometimes to put feelings in words, especially like if you get into this community, we've all probably talked about psychedelics and all that kind of stuff. Trying to describe a psychedelic experience or some spiritual experience in words to people is really hard sometimes. And so it's the same thing with truth. Like, there's something you just know, and if you're out of alignment, your body's going to tell you first, and then if you don't listen to it, then God's going to come along and create tension in your life and really punish you so you get the message, you know? And that's what I've realized is, like, I'm a total victim of myself not listening to my highest self, and then having a bigger problem in my life, you know?
I'm going to get academic for a little bit because I'm reading a book called How Emotions Are Made. There's a word in there called interoception. And so this is your capacity to understand what's going on inside your own body. Can you observe yourself? Now, here's the theory in the book. Most people think that emotions are things that happen to you because you're responding to some kind of environmental stimulus. And she says, no, emotions are things that you construct. They are manufactured, so to speak. You construct emotions to solve problems in your life. Anger might solve a problem, and I'll give you an example. I'm in your restaurant and something isn't made the way that I like, or maybe I'm trying to impress somebody else at the table, and so I'm going to perform anger at the wait staff to get something, I don't know, comped or remade and increase my status among my friends. Anger, in that case, is a constructed emotion that is performed in a social setting to solve a problem. Without interoception, you don't know why your body is budgeting the energy to that emotion. You don't know what problem you're trying to solve. It's a very thought-provoking book. Now, when you accept, or when you're trying to test this hypothesis that emotions are constructed to re-budget the allocation of energy inside your body to help you solve problems, you say, oh, okay, well, that kind of makes sense. Fear rebudgets energy so I can run. That's the fight or flight response, or so I can fight, or do whatever the problem is. Then you realize getting into the ice bath is a way of rebudgeting your body's energy. It is involuntary. You're not doing it because you're trying to solve some emotional problem. You've activated your sympathetic nervous system. You've created a fight or flight response. You have reallocated the energy in the body to thermogenesis to try and protect your core body temperature. If her book, the How Emotions Get Made, is accurate in one direction. We can construct emotions to rebudget our body thermodynamically to help solve these problems. Then it also works in the other direction. We can stimulate our body's energy budget, reallocate it inside us, and that will give us a different feeling. Now, she doesn't talk about cold plunges in the book. I'm saying this as a
I think it
cold
makes
plunge
complete
scientist.
sense because you're cheating because I'm getting in the cold plunge before I come on, so I already feel good sitting here. So you're like doing what I do with food, where you're hacking the body,
Exactly right.
and then we got a better energy. Because I guarantee our podcast would be different if I was going in after,
I agree.
right? So you're hacking,
You are correct.
The human.
And it's all on purpose.
right?
Yeah.
Right, and so I love that, and there's that resistance to getting in the cold, always for me. I love it. But there's some sort of resistance. Like I have one at home that doesn't work as good as these.
Well, you told me you did a DIY
I did.
project. You
And
showed me some pictures, and it looks pretty good.
It's as good as I can without having the brains that you guys have here, because it's amazing. Like I love it. Like it's just watching their brains work out here and the whole thing. It's truly like, wow, that's a operation, and you probably look at my restaurant and go, wow,
It's the
that's
same
an
thing.
operation.
Absolutely.
Right. And like, to me, it's easy in some aspect. This, I'm like, oh, wow. Cause I love to learn, and so it's so cool seeing all the thought.
Well, before we planned this podcast, I went and I sat at the bar and I took the stool that was closest to your kitchen. I said, I didn't even meet you yet, right? I said, but this is really cool. I want to know, how do these people interact? How do they work? What kind of space are we really creating here? And if I wasn't so impressed with the way I saw your staff communicate with one another and cooperate with one another, I never would have come back and asked to meet you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I've learned that the hard way.
How so?
Because you might hire somebody that's talented, but they don't share the values.
Right.
And so finding the right people that share the values is the biggest key. One, so I don't have to be there all the time, even though I enjoy being there. But I want to be able to travel and do the things that I talk about giving them too, right? And so it's been the biggest life lesson is, I can't even say this is what I expect for my values, humility, imagination, trust, if I don't live it. I have to live it first. So they always say, oh, it comes from the top down. It's true. You have to live in alignment with your values, and then you will attract those type of people in your business.
That makes sense.
And it's the same with your personal life. You have to live in alignment with your values to attract a person that you want to spend your life with.
Tommy, you're right.
And so every time that I've gone against somebody not aligning with my values, finding out your values is the biggest. It took me a while to get there, and I have a story about that. I had somebody dig my values out of my heart that asked the right questions while he was interviewing me, and his name's Thomas as well. There's so many Thomases around here.
We can't get enough of them.
And he was a filmmaker, and he loved what I was doing at my other restaurant and said, I want to do a commercial for you. I want to do something. And we just got talking, and I realized what he was doing, he kind of tricked me into telling my core values and just asking my story. And then from me listening to myself back, I realized what my core values were. That was about 7 years ago. And then I had a foundation to work from. And so the writing that I can share with you later is about values, and that has to be first.
Will you read that to us now?
Yeah, I'll read it to you now. And it has to do with love and ego and all of it. And this is something, when you can tune into yourself, I think you get a clear message from whatever you want to call it, higher power, God, and all those things.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I don't even know if I have a title for it, but I'll just start off, okay? Love is freedom, freedom to choose, freedom to live in your full expression. To define love is to be chained by words that cannot be bound by ink. We get brief moments of clarity when our egos have been subdued by the heart. It is in this space of heart-to-heart coherence that we find union. The frequency of love is universal beyond time and space. And in this human experience, time and space create a paradox for love between two souls. The ego waits for these moments, like a great white lurking beneath its prey, ready to strike to satisfy its thirst for blood, never satiated and continues to circle the dark and murky waters alone. As our souls evolved, we're able to choose consciously what core values align and resonate with our divine purpose. These are the pillars that create a foundation for a sacred union. They are embedded in our hearts and provide us guidance at every intersection. Humility, imagination, and trust are the coordinates to my North Star. And so that's something that deeply is my truth, and that I've worked hard to try to integrate in every part of my life.
Are your staff aware of that?
Yeah, we
Good.
talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
And I have a staff event coming up on the 11th.
Yeah.
That's all based around growth. So we will be doing movement. We'll be doing cold. We'll be doing sound. We'll be doing.
Do you need some ice baths?
I think they have them at the place that I rented,
Okay.
but I gotta ask. Yeah, but we will do an offsite event, and I'll get and we'll film the whole thing and all that, because I've done the drinking events, taking them out to dinner, and something always bad happens, and that's because drinking doesn't align with me
Right.
at this point, and the people that are working with me, like when I was drinking, I was hiring drinkers.
Yep.
You know.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and you don't have to be sober to work for me.
Yeah.
But there has to be a part of you that wants to be better the next day, you know? And so I talked to him about it. It's not written anywhere, but it's like better than yesterday. It was always something that I thought to myself, as long as you're better than you were yesterday, right? And I told this story. I was telling the story to a friend how I want to create shirts that say better than yesterday for the staff and have it kind of like an internal slogan. And this is years ago. And we were hiking when I was telling him how, just better than yesterday, right? And I realized, like, this is when I kind of like even got more of an aha moment that God exists, is because we were hiking up Camelback. It's like 4:30 in the morning, telling him this story. And there's a guy coming down. And I go, hey, how are you? And he goes, better than yesterday. And I'm like,
Out of the blue.
The universe is listening.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's really fascinating that when you become sober, when you become aware of a deeper part of yourself and you start tuning in, that God is always speaking through someone, you know? Like your story that you just shared with me, it's mirroring back parts of me that I've been struggling with recently, you know?
Well, you've given me an excuse to talk about something that I don't write about, and I'm going to insert it into the pod, and we're going to see where this is go, because the restaurant is The Energy Never Dies. I believe that there is an energy. We really need a different word for it, because in engineering, there's materials and energy. We can do thermodynamics. These are the things that our laboratory equipment can sense and measure. But there is another kind of energy, maybe we could call it the spirit, and it connects people. It exists beyond the sensory perception and beyond the ability of the laboratory to tap into it, but it does not exist beyond our own ability to feel it. And it is a connection between people that for right now we're going to call energy, but we might also call consciousness. Consciousness does not reside in the brain or in the body, not according to me. It resides out there in the in-between spaces. Our brains are antenna to tap into the consciousness, to sort of receive the consciousness, like a car radio tuned to the right frequency might pick up a radio station that is like far away. So in this case, I think George Lucas kind of got it right in, Star Wars when I was 11 years old or something. And he's, Obi-Wan, I felt a disturbance in the Force. So we could call it the Force that connects all of the people. When you're drinking, and I'm not opposed to drinking, I've drank at your bar, and your cocktails are wonderful. But when you're drinking, it's like dampening your antenna. You are tuning out. You are gone to the wrong frequency. If you turned your radio off, you turned your consciousness off. You're no longer tapped into that interstitial sort of force that connects people, and that's okay. It's a choice that you can make. When you're ready to get connected on this sort of telepathic level, where you know what's going on with those people that you're connected to, where what happens to them also happens to you on some level, because there's this extrasensory connection between you, then that is a more conscious way of living. When you're saying the energy never dies, now I'm reinterpreting that for myself as we're creating a place where all the antennae are on and they are tuned to the frequencies that are being broadcast throughout this place, where people are feeling that level of connectedness to one another. And you pointed out, it's not always positive. We want it to be positive. Sometimes it's negative, and it is never alone. Because when you have that connectivity to others, you can't feel alone.
It's the person we met through is a professional baseball player.
We can talk about him, Noah Syndergaard. Yeah.
Well, so before I even got to meet him, he had come in 6 times in a row, right? He's just every day he's texting me, hey, I'm back. Hey, I'm back.
Yeah.
I'm like out of town. It was just weird time. But in baseball, a Hall of Fame batter bats over 300, which is 3 out of 10. In the restaurant business, you have to be like 98% perfect to have a good restaurant.
Or it shows up on Yelp.
It's unbelievable, right? And so we have to work so hard to create a positive experience and bat almost perfect to have a successful place. And it's really hard to do, and you don't get it every time. But sometimes the 1% can make it the other 99% read something and feel a certain way, right? And so, our job is to go. It doesn't sway us from our job. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. What I've found is hopefully like not setting people's expectations too high before they come in. And Anthony Bourdain talks about it. If you walk into a restaurant with expectations, you've already ruined the meal.
You are so right.
And I think that's a lot for life. Like, there's no sign outside of my restaurant. Like, you have to find it. And people get upset about it.
Yep.
You need a sign. And it's like, I say, the only people that belong here are the ones that find it. Because like, I want to attract the right person and give them an experience because we're authentic, we care. If we mess up, we own it. But there are times that people come in with anger, like you were talking about earlier, and that is just to control the environment.
Absolutely.
They are using anger to control. And that's how I've realized about it myself. When I'm angry at my children is the worst part sometimes. I'm like, I'm just trying to control something or project something on these people about how I feel inside myself onto them. And that is like when you start getting mature enough to realize like those feelings you might be creating because of you, not someone else, that's when you start to kind of grow a little bit.
It happens to me at Morosco. I used to be notorious for having tantrums. Those tantrums were an attempt to control my subordinates in my business. And that control is really important to me because the success of the venture depends upon us executing reliably. But the tantrums weren't working, I had to admit. So I have an engineer, Marvin. He's a development engineer. He works on new products. He knows me very well. He used to be in class. He's helped me teach my class at ASU. And I was having one of these tantrums a few years ago. And Marvin interrupts. He says, Doc, you're spiraling. And I said, you goddamn right I am, and I'm not done yet. He brought it to this awareness. And I thought, hang on a second. As a leader, sometimes an emotional performance is actually important. The people that you're with are operating at a certain developmental level. And sometimes, either in class or at Morosco, they're going to think I don't care if I'm not demonstrative in the way that I'm delivering the message. But that's not Marvin. Marvin doesn't need that. Marvin knows me very well. I don't have to perform an emotion for Marvin to take me seriously. And fortunately, he's got a hell of a sense of humor. And when he can point this out and use the humor to kind of diffuse whatever the destructive conflict might be, then we can make it constructive again. Disagreement is not the problem. Lack of trust is the problem. Disagreement can be very creative and constructive as long as people are trusting that they're on the same page. So when I say that I'm reading this book about how emotions are conjured to solve problems, I'm doing this with the awareness that I used to lapse into tantrums as a mechanism of trying to solve problems. And now I'm more like occasionally have to match the emotion to the problem I'm trying to solve. I say, is this the right emotional it is a performance. In some cases, it could be in the classroom, for example, for this type of problem. And I'm no master at this. I get feedback in my teaching evaluations that tell me how terrible I am at, at this sort of performance. And that doesn't mean the students are right.
Right.
There's a way of challenging people that is my job as a teacher that might result in poor teaching evaluations. But sometimes they are right. I will let myself get sort of carried away. And the code word for the people close to me is, you sound like you need an ice bath.
Right.
Because there's an emotional reset. Just getting back to what we were talking about before. You put yourself in a different environment, and there's nothing that snaps me back to my present moment like an ice bath will. When I come out, now I can see things from a different perspective. I can say there are alternatives available to me that I didn't realize I had.
Here's the thing I've thought about ice baths a lot over the years, and what you're bringing, what I think it is your body, in a sense, is trying to protect itself to stay alive when you get in a cold bath, right? So all the blood's rushing to the vital organs, okay? Well, what ends up happening when you're in the cold, because you're trying to stay alive at that point, is you become very present with yourself.
Yes.
And so when I am learning a new skill or interested in something, I like to do activities that keep me the most present. And usually those are the ones that I have to think about and be present to stay alive. So when I'm hiking and I'm going downhill, every step I have to be present with the step. Yeah. If I'm somewhere else, I slip and fall off. Yeah. Riding a horse, sometimes riding a motorcycle. I won't get on those anymore.
Yeah.
But any activity where I have to stay present with myself, I think that is like giving me kind of an experience that's rooted in like reality now, and I'm not somewhere else. And that's what cold baths do. They bring me back to myself, and I will use them throughout the day to get another life out of me. Mm-hmm. From 2 to 4 always I'm like crashing, and I know I can either lay down and try to take a nap and I'll feel worse when I wake up, or if I get in the cold, I'm gonna feel alive for longer and go, I can work harder. But a lot of times when I have a temper tantrum myself, if I have over the years, it's because I'm out of alignment with myself and not doing the cold plunge. I'm not eating the right way. I'm not doing breath work. I'm not reading and learning something. And I'm all of a sudden, and then some sort of situation happens where it's like, got to get back to my foundation.
My tantrums are because I'm scared. Which is a really difficult thing as a leader to show. And some people who know me well will be able to see through it. I'm scared that we're going to lose a sale. I'm scared that we're going to have to process a refund. I'm scared that we're going to do something dangerous in our production studio. I'm scared that people will reject whatever message it is that we're putting. And I wish that wasn't the case. I wish I wasn't running around scared all the time. And yet, Andy Grove wrote this book, Only the Paranoids Survive. And it taps into this idea that we had to go through our life seeing false threats everywhere. Is that a bush or is that a saber-toothed tiger? That we always had to code for false positives when it comes to threats. Because that one existential threat that we missed, that could bring us down. So when Grove says only the paranoids survive, he's saying living on that edge of fear is, he felt, what made him successful at Intel. Now, if I remember Andy Grove's biography correctly, he grew up in Hungary behind the Iron Curtain. He had reasons to be paranoid because of the childhood environment of the Soviet totalitarianism that he grew up in. We can use emotions to solve problems. It's not that we shouldn't have them. There's a lot of problems in our life, and our interoception that rearranges our body budget will prepare us for whatever the next the next challenge might be. So I don't mean to be judging myself too harshly. When I'm aware that I'm scared, that's when I have to ask, what am I really afraid of? Is this something that needs my attention, or is this entirely in what we were talking about before, my imagination?
Usually the things that you're most insecure about are your superpower if you engage with them right.
That's good thinking, Tommy.
I really feel that way because there's a part of me that doesn't want to be seen publicly at all.
Yeah.
But when I'm in my own restaurant, I feel like a million bucks, right? I'll talk to anybody.
Yeah.
And then there's that other part of me that doesn't want to be seen public because you don't want the judgment.
Yep.
You don't want to have it perceived wrong of what you think you are, because there's no version of anybody. Somebody has a different version of you in their head than you have yourself.
Yep.
And you can't control that, right? And so there's those little moments in life where I think if you engage with that insecurity the right way, it becomes a superpower for yourself, and it's hard to always, but that's what makes you an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. Like there's a risk that I'm willing to take that other people aren't. Like I would put your business as one of the hardest to make it, just like a restaurant.
It's tough.
It's a hard business to be in because you have physical product and you have labor to do it, just like I do with food. There's high labor, and there's food costs, and there's material costs.
Yep.
And it's a hard business, whereas like somebody that just sells paper or like a
Right.
program or whatever, we're actually like creating, producing, engaging with customers every day, right? And so it's a lot harder, but there is something fulfilling about it because the product that you serve is actually benefiting them, and it is.
Absolutely.
For a long time. Mine wears out. Like they're good for like a day, and then they got to come back.
I'll be back.
Right. But yours, they get to keep it in their backyard or go to the spa wherever they're at. But it's just you are helping people for sure, and I think that you have to do something that you feel is helping the world to stay excited about it. Otherwise, I would feel soulless if I didn't feel like I'm helping the world in some way, And hospitality, I tell people all the time, is the frontline soldiers of spreading love.
Yeah.
There is something that happens when you go to a restaurant with people that you like and love, and then have a positive experience with some random bartender or random server that you didn't know. And you're like, wow, I feel great leaving. Like, this is an amazing place, because you create a feeling for them. And in a way that helps the world, because you spread a little love.
I agree.
And I give extreme examples to my staff. Like, that guy could have gone home and beat his wife that night, but because he had a positive experience with you, he's going home and loving on her, right? Who knows? You don't know who you're talking to and what they are going through in their life. But for that moment, it's a little brief clarity of something exciting. And
no wonder I love your restaurant.
Right?
No wonder I want to be there. Yeah.
So it's just like, that's the way to look at it. And to me, it's just like a beautiful part of life. It's a beautiful part of life to learn something new about someone, or to have them say, that was amazing, thank you so much. Like, it kind of fills my soul up, and
Well, you've reminded me of something. This is before COVID, faculty workshop. It's all civil engineers. We're talking about infrastructure and sustainability, and everybody here wants to save the world and blah, blah, blah. Now I have a leadership role in this workshop, but I'm participating as a faculty member, and we reached something of an impasse. It was time to make a commitment to a plan of action, and I sensed a lot of hesitation. So I challenged the faculty. I said, what is so important to you that you would be willing to risk public humiliation for it? And we were supposed to go around the room. We were supposed to say something. Tommy, not one person said that there was anything that was so important to them they were willing to risk public humiliation. I had to think about that. You might, if you put that question to a parent, maybe you would expect the parent to say, well, my kids' well-being is so important to me. I'd be willing to risk. No, they're not. They're more likely to punish their kids for embarrassing them, in front of at work or in front of their friends. They're more likely to take the opposite position. Well, you might say, oh, I became a faculty member because I want to save the world. I want to, for me, it's pollution, or it's whatever the heck, the energy crisis or the mental health crisis. I don't know what it is, but it might be something so important to them. They're not willing to humiliate themselves or to risk. You don't actually have to do it, but to risk public humiliation.
right.
And of course, I had to ask myself, the same question. What is so important to me that I'd be willing to go on the podcast feeling like I should really, I could probably drop those 15 pounds and then I would look good, right? Then nobody would ever criticize me for saying, what are you doing in health and wellness, you fat guy?
Right. Yeah.
I should probably get abs. Then I could talk about health and wellness. And I don't do that anymore.
Right. Well, it makes sense. I mean, they're the ones that don't care about public humiliation are probably politicians.
Right?
They're like,
the crazy
they go get
people.
abused.
Right. You know what normal people do? Normal people care about how they look in the world, about what other people think. And they say, oh, did I say the wrong thing? Should I change myself in some way so I can please other people? That's what normal people do.
You know, the part that I don't mind risking myself for, public humiliation,
I want to hear about it.
As a leader, is if somebody's complaining about my staff and how bad they were, like I know the real person and where they come from. So when they say something that is completely untrue about that person's character, I will defend them publicly and have my staff's back 1,000%. And they see it in our group chats and all that kind of stuff. I will never let the guest kind of like berate or say something that's untrue and totally have their back. And that, I think, has strengthened my culture.
So for you, truth is also one of your core values, for which
trust, because it's the foundation. Like some people in my business, like their core values outside of their personal life don't have to be the same as mine. But when they're in the building, these are the core values we live by, right? And there's humility, imagination, and trust. Well, not everybody has imagination. And not everybody's humble because they're still maturing. They're still learning about life.
You hire a lot of young people.
So, but as long as there's trust involved and they have two out of the three, they're employable. That's how I kind of look at it and tell them that. Like, you don't have to have all these. You know, you can be an amazing worker, but you're not that imaginative. You're not that creative about certain things. But I have to trust you. That's the biggest thing. If you don't have trust in any relationship, there is no relationship.
Right.
So that's kind of the foundation of it all. And I've realized that about myself. There is something about me. The minute that you say something, a lie or untruthful to me, I will never look at you the same. And like I've been a bad person in what I perceive bad. I've cheated before, all those kind of things, right? So nothing more like that in like a relationship, like I wasn't trustworthy, right? And now I've realized like I won't even be friends with you if you're a liar and untrustworthy. If I know that you're cheating on your wife, there's no way you'll catch me doing business with you.
Right.
Like, you know, it's just something changes inside me where I can't get over it. If you lie to me, you know? And so it's the same with my staff. Like, I tell them, like, if you own up to it, or if just you lie to me, though, it's going to be really hard for us to have trust, and it's going to be really hard for you to work here.
That makes a ton of sense.
Well, it's like, why would I have your back if I know that you're not being truthful, you know? Or why would the rest of the staff have your back if they know that there's a part of you that is not truthful, you know? And it's like, once there's a little crack in it, it's really hard to seal it back up. So, like we're talking about relationships and stuff, whatever the context of your relationship is, you know, the minute that trust is broken, there's something inside of me that turns on that might get paranoid or question, and it creates anxiety in my body. And so I've learned that the hard way, where I want to give somebody the benefit of the doubt, but deep down something feels off and I can't get over it. And the only way for me to get over it is to not be a part of it anymore. And whatever that agreement was, right? And so that's what I've just realized for myself, like, it is the number one, trust with people, you know? And if we don't have that, we got nothing.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're on the podcast. I'm glad you're in public. I'm glad you're saying, I'm going to risk public humiliation so I can share this story with the world.
Yeah, there's a part of me that I don't like to preach to people, if you will. I don't think anybody should listen to me to live their life,
the point?
Right? You know, if they're inquisitive, like in AA, they talk about the program is by attraction, not promotion.
Right.
And so I've had many people approach me over the years. What are you doing? How did you do this? You look great. Whatever it is, and they're attracted to the energy.
Yep.
And so that's really the same thing with the business, with the restaurants. Like I want people to be attracted to it and ask questions, and then I'm down to share with them or whatever my story, but I'm not going to tell them how to live or tell them what they should eat, you know. But it's a learning process sometimes, because I think the part of me that I always want to work on is like being the best father, because they talk about lead by example, and your kids see you every day and they know if you're a hypocrite or not, and like they're the truth tellers, you know. And something about kids, that pureness, that innocence in them, like they can sense people so much better than I can sometimes. Because I'm always like, oh, he's a great person, blah, 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 blah. They're like, no, I don't like her. Or the women I've dated, like, don't like her, you know, and they felt it like the first week, and I didn't listen to them.
Yeah.
Because of my ego, you know, and then later on, I'm like, you guys are right, you know. So, you know, I've learned the hard way.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, but I love people. I love talking to people and learning about them, and you know, I think it's fascinating what you're doing here. I think that, and knowing, like, I think I sat in one of the first prototypes at Optimize.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then like seeing the growth.
Yep.
Is so cool.
It's so much better. Like the one that you were in at Optimize in 2019 is a jalopy compared to what we're making now.
It's so fascinating to me, like walking out there and not knowing how big the operation was and seeing it, and what you've gone through the last 6 years is unbelievable. Like, it's so impressive to me.
Thank you.
You know,
Yeah.
It's really cool. Like,
Well, I'm flattered that you came down. It's an honor to have you here,
Yeah.
checking out what we're doing.
cool. Well, thank you for having me. And yeah, I'm just warming up now. Like those things work good. They work good. You know, so it's awesome.
Good. We'll get you some sunshine next.
Okay.
Tommy, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Yep.